Hi everyone, it's Audrey, your local real estate agent in the Hearst area.
And Remi, your local real estate agent in the Kapuskasing area.
It's been a while, but we're happy to welcome you back to Two Realtors, One Mic. Today, we are hosting a very special guest, James Hendry, certified home inspector. He is here to give you all the tips, whether you're buying or selling a house. Furthermore, we're going to be talking about the most recent election, our newest prime minister, and finally, we're going to be addressing what's been going on with the markets, where we think it's heading, and how the tariffs have impacted it, because we did talk about those last episode. So welcome, James. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
James, what is the home inspection? What's the point of the home inspection? And what is its importance?
Well, it gives the buyer peace of mind that we're not buying somebody else's problem house, money pit. So when I get there and I do a nice inspection for them and I find all the problems or that I can find, I make them a nice report. They're really happy to receive the report because they know what they're getting into. Then if they can fix the problems, they buy the house. If it's too much, then they can back away.
What is the process of a home inspection?
Well, I typically start with the outside. Start with the exterior foundation, the roof, the looks of the trusses from outside, from the ground, making sure that there's nothing rotten outside on deck boards and foundation of the decks and staircases. Make sure everything's safe. Everything is to code. Like a lot of times, balusters are too far apart and children can get hurt and fall. So those are all important things that I take note of. And I inspect the garage and make sure that the landscape is not facing towards the house. So that way, all the water pools to the house and ends up in the basement. So those are all things I look for outside. And then we move inside where I check the interior foundation, check the trusses, check the insulation of the attic, making sure all the cupboard doors open and close as they should, nothing's fallen off or damaged, and just sitting in place looking pretty for the new buyer, making sure everything is functional as it should be and there's no problems hiding.
So basically, you're going there to give them your professional opinion, to tell them the state of the house, certain things that might need to be fixed, big concerns, small concerns. In general, if you think the house is also in good shape. And we're going to go definitely into more depth conversations with James on the home inspection, but at the same time, we wanted to start with that very high level, what is a home inspection? But we also want to give you an opportunity to kind of explain what your background is.
I think some people might be wondering, it's not a very common career, right? You're the only home inspector in the Hearst Cap area, if I'm not mistaken. So how did you get into it?
Well, I started off in foundations and I really enjoyed working in foundations. It's hard work, but it's really good to do. Like I got a home inspection done in Chapleau when I was living there, and I didn't get a home inspection done, and I ended up with a problem house. And I thought I knew what I was looking for, but without knowledge and training, I was not capable of making that proper decision. And then I bought a house in Strickland, and I just got a home inspection done, but I felt like the home inspector wasn't as thorough as he should have been. And so I felt uncomfortable with the home inspection process. So when I decided to become a home inspector to give people that peace of mind, I went for the training and certification. And now that I can give people that peace of mind, I feel better about it. And I know what I'm looking at. And I know when I see something, if it's going to be a problem in the future, or if it's a problem now, or if it's no problem at all, or if it's an easy fix, I can give people peace of mind.
And I think you had also a good mentor, right, to get you into the trade of home inspection?
Yeah, my father-in-law was the local home inspector for years, and he decided to take a retirement, but there was nobody to replace him. With my knowledge background of foundations, and I decided to do the course. And when I passed the course, he was excited because he could finally retire and give you guys, he can get a break from you guys. And so now I get to enjoy working with you guys side by side and working with these houses.
Yeah, because I remember at the time too, when your father-in-law was thinking about retiring, there was also another one. We had two local ones at the time, and we were basically going to go from 2 to 0. And I remember when I was talking with your father-in-law, I was like, man, like you guys need to find somebody, you need to train somebody. If not, we're going to be stuck. Like obviously there's some in Timmins, but even from Kapuskasing, that's a 2-hour drive. And from Hearst, that's a 3-hour drive. So it would be very hard to try to get somebody. And then I remember he was like, yeah, I have my son-in-law. I've been talking to him for a few months about it. I think he'll be interested. I think I'll, train him and bring him in. And that's how I got introduced to you there as the new inspector there once the training was all completed.
Yeah, I shadowed him for almost a year during his inspections, and I learned quite a bit from him. But when I actually did the course is when I really understood what asbestos looked like and what or potential for asbestos looked like and what mold actually looked like. There's so many different kinds of mold that people don't understand. They just see a surface mold and they panic. So I can really, alleviate some minds by letting them know that it's surface and it's okay. It's not a problem. This is how you clean it up, and puts peace of mind to people. And people are more willing to buy the house or take that leap because they know it's not going to be a problem.
And talking about certifications and training, like what kind of training certificates do you need? What's the time period for getting those qualifications for that job?
So it's an online course and it takes about 6 months to do. It's pretty in depth because you have to know your stuff and you have to be insured also. And if you don't have the proper certification, insurance is very expensive. As it is right now, insurance is about $5,000 a year for me in order to do this. So it works out to be just around $500 a month for the insurance. So people don't understand that when you make your prices for home inspection, you have to factor in, you have to pay the programming to make the reports. You have to pay the insurance. You have to pay the gas to get to those places. So, you don't make the whole fee as pocket money, and it's not just beer money. It's you actually, you have bills to pay with that money.
Yeah. Although you do save some for beer money, right?
I'm more of a whiskey guy, but yeah.
Well, we appreciate that. Thanks.
So what is the part that you love the most about your job?
There's a lot of times when I see a single mom going to be about to buy a home for her and her family and her young children. And I feel as if sometimes if she doesn't know what she's looking for, or she feels unsure, she may end up with a house that's going to cause her children to get sick from either mold, or they could also be the roof could collapse because of the structure not being adequate and stuff. So when I go and do a thorough inspection and I show her, these are the problems, and then she's like, I can live with that. And then she's happy to buy the house, or she's like, that's more than I bargained for. I'm going to back out. But thank you for protecting me from that money pit, because I just don't have the money to put into it. So I feel good when I help somebody make the right decision.
How do you handle those hard conversations when you meet a buyer that says, I am in love with this house, they're sold on it, and to them the inspection is just a way to cross the T's, dot the I's, and you have to tell them this house is really unsafe?
I was in a house one time, and there was actually, it happens that there's underground water, makes like a little river, runs through the basement. It was actually in the crawl space. Nobody knew. The homeowner who bought previously didn't get a home inspection. They didn't know. Everything was fine to them, but the hole underneath was mold from one end to the other. And so when I went under there and I'm crawling through that and I'm looking at this and taking pictures, and I came out and I said, the whole house is absolutely gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. Like you would feel like $1 million owning this house. However, this is what it looks like underneath. And they were just devastated because they really liked that home. And it was able to be cleaned up, but you're talking major money to fix that, clean that up.
Did they end up buying it?
They did not buy that house. There was actually another gentleman who bought it, who did disaster cleanup. He was fully prepared to clean up the mold underneath. And the house actually sold, and she got what she was looking for the house, but it was just a protection for that buyer.
Well, that's fantastic. You were able to provide very important information to that person. And at least, even with that buyer that came in, they knew what they were getting into. So they were satisfied buying the house. So didn't work with buyer number one, but ended up buying with buyer number two, and everybody's happy. It's not like you don't have somebody move in, and then after that, they figure out the whole mold situation, and that becomes a big fiasco. And also for the sellers, not as common, but some buyers do get home inspections prior to selling to, make sure that any boo-boos that might come up during a viewing or a future home inspection, they can take care of it maybe ahead of time. So what would be your recommendations if a seller is thinking about doing something like that, pertaining to maybe getting a home inspection prior to selling it?
I think it's really important because to have an inspection done before, because when I come there and I do the full inspection and I make the report, I note the problems at the first part of the report, which is called a summary. The seller can look at those things, and then when the buyer comes in and they choose not to get a home inspection, but they come back and say, we noted these problem and this problem and this problem, we want X amount of dollars off because of that. The seller could say, no, we had a home inspection done and that's not a problem, and that's not a problem, and that's not a problem, because we did our homework. Yeah. And so it protects the seller from losing money on their house because people try to save a buck where they can, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is a protection, because sometimes as a seller, you don't have that education level where you know what you're looking at when it comes to a foundation or the attic or stuff like that. So you may end up saying, oh, okay, I didn't know, and then lower your price to sell the house. But meanwhile, you never had to.
Yeah. And it can also encourage a seller to get certain things rectified before putting it on the market. So, obviously removing a lot of those little items. Well, when a buyer comes in, less red tape, right? Okay, we had these issues, they've all been rectified, and it still encourage a buyer to still get a second home inspection done. But at the least time that they know that certain things that were identified have been corrected. Doesn't mean they fixed everything, but at least they corrected maybe some small stuff they knew they could handle prior to putting it on the market.
So let's say some sellers don't want to do the full home inspection beforehand. What are common mistakes that you would recommend they fix before listing a house?
First of all, stop removing your light bulb. I've been in too many houses where there's one light bulb for the entire place, and we're steady moving light bulb from room to room to see what we're looking at. So those are important. Make sure you have lighting so we can see what we're looking at. A lot of times people, they do a painting to make the house look good, and they remove all the outlet covers and they don't put them back. Those are all little things that you could do to make the place look better, and it's less things for me to have to note in my report.
Yeah.
Plug missing, cover missing here, plug cover missing there.
The summary's going to be shorter for the clients to read.
Yeah, for sure.
So building into that, what would be the most funniest or memorable home inspection you've actually ever done?
I actually got called to do a home inspection one time by the lady, and I agreed to it. She actually paid me. She signed the agreement for me to go. Maybe 6 hours later, her husband called me back and said, no, we don't need a home inspection. I know what I'm looking at, but thanks. So I refunded him his money and say, okay, well, have yourself a good day. No problem. And about maybe a month later, he actually bought the house, and he called me back and he says, one time when you're going through town, can you stop in and see me? I said, sure. So I stopped in and seen him that afternoon, and they went in the basement, and the sellers had put a brand new bathroom in the basement of the home, but it had never been used. It was brand new. So I get there to do the follow-up, what he was complaining about, because he could smell raw sewage in the basement. He didn't know where it was coming from. So the flow-out pipe for a septic system is typically about 4 feet off the floor, which means if you have a basement toilet, you have to have a pump toilet, which pumps the sewage out of the basement. But they didn't. They had a regular toilet sitting on the floor with the pipe going to the sump pump hole. So all the raw sewage would go into the sump pump hole, which was pumped outside under the deck.
Wow.
Right where the guy was barbecuing, raw sewage was coming out under his feet.
Disgusting.
So he could smell it. He didn't know where it was coming from, and he was really upset because they had that privacy lattice all underneath the deck, so it looked real good.
Yeah.
So the cleanup of that raw sewage and the sump pump hole, and to remove the toilet, put a proper toilet in and plumb it properly, was big mistake, cost them a lot of money. So he regretted not having that home inspection because it looked good, but it wasn't functional properly.
Oh my God.
It wasn't to code. So
just imagine that on a nice July hot day there.
Yeah.
Simmering.
Disgusting. Okay, I'm curious, was it a private sale or was it with a realtor?
It was a private sale.
It was a private sale. See, hire realtors. We have to do due diligence. It's harder to hide stuff.
So what's actually the one house where you walked in, actually this might actually be the one you already said it, but I guess the horror story one, but that might have been already it there. But I don't know if there's another house where you walked in, and as soon as you walked in, you were almost telling yourself, what is the buyer getting into here?
Yeah, it was an as-is sale, private sale again. And I walked into the house. The bank property manager opened the door for me to come in to do an inspection for actually a buyer out of town near Toronto. They never saw the house. They only saw pictures of the house. So they wanted me to go do an inspection of it. So I got there for the inspection, and there was about 8 inches of raw sewage on the basement floor. A pipe had broke and backflowed right into the house. And so the property manager hadn't been by in a few weeks, so they hadn't noticed it. So it kept filling up. And it was very bad smell in that house, boy. As soon as you open the door, it was nope.
Did you finish it or did you just call it?
I called the buyer and I said, you have the option of continuing with the home inspection at this point and choosing to buy the home as is, or I stop the inspection right now and I only charge you the time I have into it, and we move on to finding you a new place. And they decided to go with a realtor and buy something else.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too. I'm a strong, doesn't matter what property I sell, because it happens, we sell properties to, southern buyers or buyers that are just not available locally at that time to see the property. But I'm very strong on it. Okay, if you're buying it, even if you want to put in an offer to Nate, put in a condition that, have a home inspection then, but also that you see it in person. Yes, I can go show you pictures, do video tours and all that, but you cannot beat going it in person. So luckily the person had you go and check it for them, but also, if ever they're able to come down, check it yourself, because yes, there's pictures out there, but you have to go in person and really see what you're getting yourself into. And it's like I tell people, I'm like, hey, like if you're going to buy a car, like you want to test drive it first, right? Like these are big investments, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, depending what you're spending on. So yeah, even if you are a 10-hour drive away, put a condition in, make the drive, come see the property, make sure you're satisfied with it, and get a home inspector to give you their personal professional opinion.
Yeah, so a lot of buyers ask me, what is the point of home inspection? We've covered this, but they also ask me, what if the house fails? So is that something that you do, like fail a house?
I've never really failed a house. I've come to problems with, let's say, foundation issues. I've told them, this is along the driveway, so it's typical that the frost pushes down when you park right beside the building, and it will push into the building a little bit, and it does crack the foundation. It is repairable, so we can hire a local contractor to come and brace it, take the wall down, rebuild it, or they'll actually even open the wall, put rebar in there and core fill it. So there are options to do it, and it costs X amount of dollars, and explain to people how easy it is to fix things on their own. Also, a lot of people have no idea, like even caulking, like how important it is on a house. So the window on the outside, the rainwater hits there. If it flows in, it comes into the house. Yeah. And then it leaks under the window, and you see the window bubbling underneath the window, right on each side of the corner. There's a crack, and it'll be the paint will be bubbled. That's all just minor caulking outside, and they don't understand how important it is. So just remove the old caulking, put new stuff in. If you don't know, YouTube it. It's very easy to put caulking in. Get the paintable, workable caulking. It's very, very easy to use. And eaves trough. Eaves trough are so important, especially getting downspouts 6 feet from the house, above grade. It's very important to have that water pushed away from the house.
Yeah.
Above grade is so important because the pipes underground have frost in the north, and they will crush with the frost. Yeah. And now you have a broken pipe underground that your water's going into. So if your water leaves that pipe, it's beside the building.
Yeah. It's crazy how, like, I always find like the biggest scare for me when it comes to selling houses is like Mother Nature, like water. Like water is it gets anywhere, it follows gravity, right? Like you're talking about slopage, right? Sometimes is it like, do I need to redig the whole foundation, or do I just need to add a little bit of aggregate on the side of my house to slope it down, right? Like there's all those things. But at the end of the day, man, water, especially if it's, one small drop, but the drop keeps going for days, weeks, months, years. Next thing you know, you have a basement full of mold. Right. So it's incredible, all those little things. And it's great that they have somebody like you that can give them proper guidance on maybe how to rectify a big problem or a small problem. So having said that, what would you say like is a very common thing that what are the common things that you usually see during a home inspection? Like it's almost like 90 to 95% of the time you're always going to see this during a home inspection.
Lots of times it's asbestos. In the north, we have houses that were from the 70s, and asbestos was big back then. I can't legally call anything asbestos without having it tested, but to have tiles on the floor that are just covered over is fine, but it's still there. Yeah. So asbestos is still there. The new vinyl siding outside looks great, but if it's over clay asbestos siding, it's still there.
Yeah.
So people don't understand, I put new insulation in the attic on top of the asbestos, potential asbestos insulation. So to be able to tell people that this has potential for asbestos and this all does. So a sample would have to be taken and sent to the lab. There's one in Toronto, one in London now that can do that testing and send it back. And then you have that peace of mind knowing that if your house contains asbestos or not. Asbestos isn't dangerous to nobody. If it's under a tile, under a new laminate floor, there's no danger to nobody. If it's in the ceiling tiles, as long as you're not rubbing your face on it, there should be no problem. It's in your attic. You're not in your attic every day. So if they're 3 times a year or 3 times in your life that you go in your attic, it's not a problem, not a danger to anybody. But people need to know that it's there so they can protect themselves.
What is one question that you think buyers should always ask you as a home inspector that maybe now you're forthcoming with, but what is one like big piece of advice or one question they should ask?
Whatever they're concerned about. If there's something that concerns them, like I get calls, I've been to the house, I've looked at it, this is my concern, and then I'm able to spend more time on that concern and make them feel comfortable with their purchase. It's not like you're buying a Tim Horton coffee here. This is big money. So it's a big money investment. So if you're not 100% comfortable with it, it's a problem. If I can look at that issue that you're concerned about and alleviate your concern, you're going to be more apt to and more comfortable to buy the property. So I have no problem with people asking me questions or asking me to spend more time on something.
And the other thing building on that, because I've heard you talk with clients about it too, is you want to make sure they're comfortable because continuing business, right? That's also important, right? Well, okay, today they're buying that house. Well, maybe in 5 years they got to sell that house, and they know, they might even want to get a pre-inspection done with you, or another buyer comes in. They know you're going to be the inspector. Like everybody's kind of comfortable with the situation, right?
Right. Yeah, word of mouth spreads quick. And I've had one client, she's been here 5 years in Kapuskasing, and she's bought 3 homes. She bought a house. She loved the house, but it wasn't on the river. So she wanted a house on the river. Now I got a home inspection done there, and then I went there, did it. She moved into that home and sold her other one. But then her mom got sick. So she needed a house with a granny suite. So she bought a house on the river with a granny suite. So she moved over there. So I did an inspection on that one. So repeat business is really good for me, and I get a lot of clients like that. So it's really good.
And I know we don't have necessarily, let's say, new builds in Kapuskasing, but we have newer houses to a certain degree. So what would be the big differences that you're looking for? Let's say if you get one of the old mill houses in Kapuskasing that were maybe built between the 1920s and the 1940s, compared to maybe a house that was built in the 90s, late 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, there's lots of that knob and tube wiring. There's still some houses with knob and tube. Aluminum wiring was big back in the day because of the cost of the aluminum. Insurances don't like that stuff. They hate that knob and tube, and they hate aluminum. So when I get there and I can look at those things to see if any things are being used in the old homes, make less people let their insurance know what they're looking at, if it's still there or if it can be removed, or if it's there but it's not connected. It's just for aesthetics, because it's an old home. It's got that old knob and tube, but it's not connected. It's nice. But even the new homes, I like new homes because they were mostly professionally built, and they don't have people's fingers on them doing their own wiring and their own plumbing and their own drywall repairs that are crooked, and the walls are crooked, and so or the flooring is gapped. And so those are all things that people try to do it themselves or do it yourself, and it's just putting lipstick on it to be able to sell it. So I like new houses because there's less chance that somebody's had their fingers on it that shouldn't have been touching things.
So would you prefer to inspect an older house or a newer house? Just
A
for
newer house.
Yeah. It's quicker, less work.
Yeah, it's less work, and things are more apt to have been built professionally.
If there was one major piece of advice, and you might have already touched base on this, but just one major piece of advice you could give to any home buyer pertaining to home inspections, what would that be?
Get the inspection done. It's worth the $500 or whatever it is for your location that you're getting it done, because it's peace of mind. Plus, you're not going to end up with a problem, house and a money pit. It's also a protection, because if there is a problem in the future, I'm covered in insurance. So, you have that. You can go back to CMHC and get that protection and that insurance, right, through your mortgage, because you've had the inspection done.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a phenomenal answer you gave there.
Let's do one more question, and then we'll do into rapid fire. But obviously you provide a report and you provide them advice and answers to their questions on the home inspection. Is there other advice that you can give them? Like, I know we talked with one of my clients in the past about some grants that you were aware of to help. So is that something you can do as well?
Yeah, lots of times if I go up in the attic and I see that there's only 4 inches of insulation, I always try to guide people to look at government grants, because there's government grants for windows, there's doors, there's new furnaces, air conditioners, there's even some for insulation. So if you look at the government grants, they're not always being offered, but if you keep an eye on their offering board, their grants that they offer, keep an eye on those things. When they do offer them, try to jump in on them, because even appliances, they'll come in, they'll look at your appliances, and if they're dragging too much heat, too much electricity, they can help you upgrade so I had my house upgraded with the insulation and the windows and doors through government grants, and I saved probably $10,000.
Wow. So that's another great thing to get when you're getting home inspection, is you get some tips like that some people are not aware of.
Yeah, so I try to give the clients advice on things that are out there that they could do. Or if you maybe change your flooring, if I go in the basement and I see they have laminate flooring and it's always wet looking because it's damp in a basement, there's vinyl flooring, there's luxury vinyl, there's all kinds of things you could put instead of that to not have that ugly look.
Answer as quick as you can. Don't give it too much thought. What is the biggest deal breaker you can spot in the first 5 minutes of walking into a house?
Foundation problems. When they're caving in on one corner there, that's a big problem.
Crawl spaces, do you love them or do you hate them?
I hate them. They're dirty and dingy, and I get filthy doing them, but I still have to do it as part of the job.
When you do a home inspection, what's the favorite tool you like to have with you at all times?
My flashlight.
Oh, there you
A
go.
lot of dark places, and especially when you're looking in closets and stuff, it's very important to have. You don't want to look for mold or water coming in from the roof.
Yeah,
So I love my flashlight.
there you go.
The basic. And what's the craziest thing you've ever found in a wall or an attic?
I met got called to do a home inspection one time. The lady was selling to move to an old age home, not by choice. And she was pretty upset with the situation. But I found a very, very old, ancient table hockey game in her attic. And I removed it and I pushed it down the hole to her and her son. And they were able to sell it online for over $2,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I like those stories where you hear about somebody like found this ancient thing in the attic there and they sold it for thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands there. That's crazy. Yeah. James, first of all, I would like to thank you for coming today. You've been phenomenal, very informative, very on point. Really, really enjoyed this. And I really hope that you can join us again in the future as a special guest. We'd love to have you anytime on this podcast with
You're
us.
a natural. You did really, really good. Thank you for coming and educating our listeners. Yeah, I know you have so many more stories to tell.
Yeah, my pleasure. I enjoyed this. And if I can educate some people and make sure that they don't make bad decisions, it's better for it.
Excellent.
I think we need an episode with all the stories you could tell us.
As we're filming this, we're April 29th, the day after the federal elections. First of all, to congratulate our continuing Prime Minister, Mark Carney, for being officially elected as the Prime Minister of Canada. What I feel this election is going to do for our country moving forward for the real estate market. So the big thing that I've seen over the last few months, even though our pricing has gone up in the Kapuskasing in the new fiscal year of 2025, we've actually had lesser home sales. There's a big reason, I believe, for that, not just in the Kapuskasing area, but Canada-wide, the prices have gone up. When we finished the fiscal year, it was around 250,000. The average price sale in Kapuskasing. We're higher now. We're around the 275. We're 4 months in. I do believe that as the year goes by, those numbers might go down. They might sustain in that area, but I do think there's going to be some changes.
So Hearst was kind of slow until about March. With the elections coming up, with the tariffs talk, I saw a lot of people being scared of getting into home ownership. April has seen a very big uptick in buyers. Home prices are still up. The average home price we had dropped around the 255. We're back up to 265. So I expect it's going to stay there. This has been kind of the trend for the past 3 years, 265 to 255. We're always kind of playing in that range, which is, to me, a very reasonable price for a home. And the market seems to be agreeing with that, with the prices staying there and going maybe a little bit more up by 1 or 2%. Super active, a lot of new listings coming out, a lot of showings. So I'm really excited for the summertime and the fall time to roll around.
I think a lot of people were a little bit on pause mode before the tariffs were actually in effect. We were predicting that it was going to be a very active market. The market was going to go up for Canada in general. And then President Trump came in, the tariffs came into effect, and nothing really came to a standstill, but it was just not as active as we were kind of predicting it to be. The other thing too, I think we did have a longer winter this year than we had for the last 2 years. People, first of all, don't like to move during winter. You can't see basically a lot of the problems you might have with a house when there's still snow. During the springtime, when the sun's coming out, you get to actually see, the green grass. You get to see the foundation around that. You get to go in the basement, try to see if it's a leaky basement. So with the tariffs, with the federal elections, and also with the weather, I almost felt, for me personally, I felt like everything was almost backtracked by almost a month. I feel like May 2025 will be more like my April 2024, where usually once you hit the month of April, everything is high gun and running. But with the long winter and with everybody kind of waiting to see who's going to lead the country moving forward, I think there could have been an effect there. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just that was kind of like my personal perspective when it came to those. And again, also checking with CREA, they do anticipate that we're going to finish more with the same numbers that we had in 2024. They were predicting, again, as I mentioned earlier, house prices going up with more sales. Now they're kind of thinking it's going to be more the same numbers that we had where we kind of finished, because also what they've noticed is that from November 2024 all the way to March 2025, every month the amount of house sales have been going down almost like 5% like clockwork. But now that we are going to get into the spring season, I think those numbers of declining are going to stop. They're going to be more stable.
I do expect my market to come back. I think Hearst folks have gone to break, like especially buyers in 2024. We had a lot more inventory than we've ever had for almost 10 years. Inventory is starting to come down significantly, and buyers are coming back to the market. So Hearst folks that got a break are definitely not going to get a break anymore. Like, it's going to get competitive over here. I know it. Obviously, there was a lot of promises made during the electoral campaigns about housing. So I'm excited to see how they come to help Canadians who are having a hard time getting into home ownership. It's definitely going to be something to watch, and we'll keep everybody updated. We're living it as you are, so we don't know. We don't have a magic crystal ball.
Again, every podcast, we like to talk about one of our personal listings. I've chosen 59 Sailing Club on Remi Lake in Moonbeam. 4-season cottage. So yes, cottage/home. You can live there all year round. It's got the approved septic system. It's got a well that's installed. So you got the potable water. And it's even got a 2-door garage. So, you have that waterfront property. Now, the bonus with it too is there's also a second property on the other side of the road. So as much as you have your cottage with your garage, on the other side of the road, you could even, build another garage if you wanted extra storage. Great spot for, doing a campfire, parking your trailers, all that stuff. So it's phenomenal too. And we have reduced the price a bit. So now it's a very affordable price for that property. Year-round living at the lake, skidooing in the winter. You can even go in town, like obviously boating in the summer, but you can even go in town in Moonbeam. You got the golf course there. They got the nature trails. Fantastic place. So if ever you're interested, look up that listing, 59 Sailing Club. Be happy to sell it to you.
That sounds like a dream house, honestly.
Yeah.
And if you just drop the price, I mean, sellers want to sell, so
Yeah.
people got to get moving.
Last week, we were able to go attend a school in Hearst, where Audrey's from, and we were able to present our podcast to some of their students. So that was really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, we were able to give them some tips and talk with them about their podcast they were doing for a school project. It was super fun. We really appreciated the invite. It was great to get to know the kids and see what they're passionate about, because apparently podcasts are for old people. We have established that with them very thoroughly. Facebook is for old people. Everyone's on TikTok. So if you want to be with the kids, we're going to have to be on TikTok a little bit more.
Yeah.
So Julien, I think you're going to have some work with those shorts after this, bud.
Definitely. But it was super interesting to go see, the younger generation, kind of like get their perspective, and also, kind of give out our knowledge of, although this podcast is still fairly new, the knowledge that we have till now. It was really fun to interact with them. So that was a really fun activity. Also for the general public, if you have general questions, podcast, real estate related, anything you want, you can always call me and Audrey at all times. We're always available. We are realtors. We work 24/7. Just try not to call us at 3 a.m. But again, if you do have an emergency, you can call us at any time. But if you have a general question of some sorts, we're always open to listen to any questions you might have for us.
We have also an email that's open if you want to send us a quick email to realtors1mic@gmail.com. If we have plenty of questions, we might just answer yours on the podcast, so you can help more than just yourself.
Yeah. So we would like to thank everybody for joining us today. We're looking forward to any questions you might have, but we're also looking forward to continuing putting out these podcasts for everybody.
Share this episode with them if you'd like, because they could really get a lot of knowledge from James on home inspection.
Home inspections, 100% always recommended.
Always.
Have a great day. See you next time.